Hello and welcome to another episode of Unboxing Women, where we explore the gender gap in the music and entertainment industry. If you're active in the music business, an independent artist, a musician, or are just curious about how it all works, then this is the pod for you. My name is Micah Rose, and with me is my friend Dana Rex. We are both independent recording artists based in Europe, and we are here to reveal what really goes on behind the scenes. You can listen to us on our YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast platform. So basically where you're listening right now. Today's topic is managers, right? Do we need one?
That's the topic.
That's the
and
topic.
the answer is
yes. Well, I mean, let's not say the answer now because you're not going to listen to the episode otherwise. But no, I was just going to say I don't have a lot of experience because I've never had a manager. But I wanted to put the question to you, Dana, because you have some experience with managers.
Well,
tell us a little bit more.
Actually, I have some questions for you first.
All right. Yes.
So quick fire round. Do you feel you need a manager?
Sometimes.
Is that because of the industry pressuring you? Or is that for yourself?
It's because people tell me I need a manager to get gigs and stuff.
And who are people?
People not in the industry.
You see, Here we go again with the people just listening to music being
saying you need to do this. Yeah,
exactly.
It's always funny because it's also a lot of the time it's my parents, and I'm like, yes, but you're not in the music industry, and it's like, yes, and I'm sure it would be helpful in some degrees, but also you don't really need one, do you? But do you though? And I don't know. And then it's like me warring with my own kind of knowledge and them like having been right before.
Because they're your parents.
Yeah. So yeah.
I have that with my mom too. And I mean, I don't know if you're listening, Mom, but yes, you do that too. So you're like, oh, but you have to do this. Oh, and you have to, call this guy or look at this, or you have to be on that show, or you have to release this song. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do that tomorrow. There's a plan and there's a thing and there's other things.
There's a timeline.
On. Yeah, and other things that she doesn't know about because I'm working on this all day, every day, and there's just other things in the way sometimes of sometimes the next step or whatever. But I think managers. I have searched for managers. I have talked to managers, real ones and not so real ones. And having a manager is, as the title says, overrated. It's just, you don't need to have that. But the problem with that is that the industry makes you feel like you do. Because
you're not going to be taken seriously otherwise.
Yeah, and because a lot of times artists are seen as very, how should I say this, unprepared maybe, or lost souls just doing their art and wallowing in this universe, and kind of not organized at all. They have no idea about the industry, and they don't know what they're doing, and they need somebody to kind of herd them and tell them what to do. Now this was probably true at one point in time in the music business, but now the music business has changed so much, and there's so much going on that you can do yourself. Like the first thing is distribution is already, it isn't with the major labels anymore. You can distribute all on your own. Yeah. And you can do marketing things with either a marketing company, or you can even do your own marketing. You can network in the sync world on your own. I mean, yes, all of this takes a lot of time and effort and knowledge, because you need to learn about it first and when you step into it. So for one person to do it all and well is obviously mostly impossible.
It's also more than a full-time job.
Yes, it's more than a full-time job. Yeah. So you do always need to make choices, but is the manager still on number one for, this is the first person I need on my team?
No.
Definitely not anymore.
I think I would get myself a booker.
Yeah,
I would get myself a booker, and maybe at some point somebody who does PR. But I wouldn't get myself a manager.
No, managers are definitely overrated. And I'm sure that the managers out there who are successful and who are doing a good job, they're like valid managers.
Oh, yeah.
But there are a lot of people who say they're managers out there and they're actually just sharks because they are wading through a pool of all these little artist fish that, you know, want to be big, and they're like they're just promising stuff. And because the music industry has changed, so it's like a direct reason for it, that, you know, we're not, let's say, managed via a label anymore. Managers don't work for a label anymore. They're also all independent, like independent agents, managers somehow, you know. And to be a manager, and certainly in the music industry, there's firstly no studies really involved. There's no real diploma that you have to be able to provide. Until very, very recently, there weren't even any studies for it. Now there's studies popping up to actually like study the music business. But
you mean university courses?
Yes. Yeah. There's actually a music business school where you can get a bachelor degree in Belgium right now.
In music management.
Yes, in music management. So
okay.
They're popping up all over the place. It's, remember like in the 90s, like, oh, I'm sorry. Remember, like back in the 90s.
Yes, back in the 90s when I was a kid.
So there were all these, like, DJing was a thing of the 80s and the 90s, and it was becoming stronger and stronger. And the 90s was really a pinnacle of DJ time as well. And then in the nillies, all of a sudden, all these DJ schools started popping up, you know? So it's a bit the same. So throughout the nillies, we're like, oh, everybody needs a manager, la 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 la. And now all these schools are popping up. But do you really need a manager though? If you're an independent artist, probably not. And the problem is then that a lot of these people, I wanted to say guys, but I'm so sorry.
Well, a lot of them are men.
A lot of them, yes. Most of them are men. Yeah. And they just like, oh, you know, they make themselves a little bit important and like, oh, but I have like network. And sometimes they do have a network in the music industry, but they've never like been an actual manager or
they don't know how to use their network.
No, but it's just for so that you would think they're important and then obviously start paying them because you actually employ them. Well, not employ them, but they are actually more of, let's say, a coach than a manager, because they don't take a cut of whatever that they would be able to get for you like it used to be, but you have to pay them a fee up front. You can already notice that this is dangerous because then they're paid up front without even having to do anything.
Yeah.
And so why would they then still do it? Because you already paid them. Yeah. So a lot of the times they just lead you on and like, oh yeah, you know, oh, we're going to get this for you. And they never do. And once payday comes around again, they start talking about it again. And like, oh, but we're so close. You know, we're so close. We just need this last hurdle. And what they mean is you just need to pay me this last time. And then I will stick my finger out and like do something. But, you know, no guarantees because I might not get it for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I remember I had a music business course in uni. So I had like one module that was music business, and we learned about the history of the music business and kind of how it all worked in the UK because I studied in the UK. And we were also told about publishers, and that in publishing there are two separate ways to get a publisher, and one was one where you would pay a monthly fee and they would publish your stuff, and then one where they would get royalties off of your stuff, like a royalty share. But so they wouldn't get paid unless they actually pushed your stuff and used your stuff and put it into stuff. So we were always told to always go for the royalties one. Obviously make sure it's a fair deal, but still kind of go for that one, because otherwise they're not going to push your stuff. And this lecturer, she had worked in a publishing company for years. So she knows exactly what she's talking about. And it's not even something that they try to hide, which I find absolutely disgusting. You're taking people's money and you're not doing anything for it. But at the end of the day, what do you expect, right? What do you expect if you're paying somebody to publish your stuff and then you're not getting anything out of it? It's because you've
they've
already
been
paid them. They have
Yeah.
no incentive to do anything anymore. And this is what's happening with managers too.
Mhm.
There are loads of really good managers, I'm absolutely 100% sure. But unfortunately, there are a fuck ton more who will just take your money. So it's yeah, if there's one thing you'll take from this episode is just don't do upfront. Do an old split like they used to.
Yeah, no,
Because
that's
it's
true.
much better.
It's true. Yeah, you have to really be careful with this because I'm very guilty of that, and I haven't just done it once. I've done it a bunch of times. So I mean, if I'm honest to myself, let me just count. So I had that one, then there was that one. So I've done this like 5 times. Okay, so
Wow.
you could say like, why did you let yourself be duped 5 times in a row, basically, by basically the same kind of scam? And it's just the hope that, this time that one is serious, and this time that one is the real thing, and this time this one will do something for you because he does see that you have potential, and and it's still not. Why? Because the guy that's going to be, or the girl that's going to be your manager is, has to be invested in it as much as you. So they have to not only see your potential and see, the way that they would be able to help you grow it, but they are also willing to basically not be paid until you are paid.
Yes.
And that's the whole problem, right?
Exactly. They need to be willing to kind of go on that. See, that's the thing. Managers used to go on these journeys with the artist. They used to be like, ride or die. We will go up or down together. And like, I will make sure that you make it to the top because I believe in you and I believe in what you do. And I am willing to stake my own livelihood on this. And yeah, that's an insanely risky thing to do, but that's the artist life. And if you don't, like, how do you expect somebody also to pay something monthly if you don't have any incoming money?
Yeah.
Like you're literally destroying your own income stream by doing this.
Yeah.
Well, no, the managers are destroying their own income stream technically.
Oh, yeah, that's what you mean.
That they're not getting, that artists aren't generating more money. So how do they expect them to pay forever? So basically, they constantly need to get new artists involved, which unfortunately there are enough of.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that's why it can still work. But if you really want, I just think it doesn't make sense on a financial level. Also, the hassle of having to get new clients all the time must be so annoying.
Well, they kind of get being experts in that field, right? So they go to conferences like Reeperbahn and like, any other conference, where they're like, selling it, and like, I like being so interesting. And they do have, a network because they are pals with all the people, and then some labels and some other managers. And so they do have like a network, but the question is, will you be the one that they're leveraging it for? Because you're paying them. So why would they even? And when push comes to shove, what really happened to me was like, okay, so I find this one person, and then you talk to maybe other artists that they're managing, but you never talk to an artist that's like been with them for like 10 years or something. It's always very new artists that have been with them for a couple of months, and oh my God, I feel so good with them, and they've done so much for me already, while these artists are in themselves don't really know what they're talking about because they're very new to the market and to the job and to whatever their passion as well. And they're passionate, and and some of them might have like a ton of money from their parents like behind this project, and some of them are very young and not even paying for this person themselves. So that's how I known a ton of people who were with my first manager, who was actually female, by the way, who scammed me really like hard. That was like it was supposed to be like a big lesson, and then I just fell into the same trap again afterwards. And yeah, some of the people that she was working with, they were also, they had parents like just funding this stuff, the hell out of their kids. Like, oh yeah, you want to do this is your dream. We're rich. We're just going to pay until you get there. And this is the livelihood of these kind of people. They just scam their way through months and months because Either it's a monthly payment or a 3 monthly payment. They just bullshit you until the next payment round is there. And then you're like, but wait, I haven't really had any results from you, you know, I'm a bit frustrated. And then every 3 months you're a little bit frustrated. Then they're like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry. Let's do this for you. Let's do that. And then they come up with all these little extra things. And then you're like, oh, okay, you know, they must be legit. And then you pay again. And then you fall into this void again of, you know, they're not really doing anything for you because they have to be doing this with somebody else now because it's their pay round. So you kind of start seeing this pattern emerge, and it takes a couple of rounds for you to really realize. And then you're afraid. Then you're like, oh, if I give up on them and I was wrong and they are legit, then I'm, you know,
paid all that money for nothing.
Then paid all that money for nothing is for one. Secondly, I'm burning my bridges because if this person is legit and has a network, they're going to say, oh, this Dana Rex girl, you know, she's not serious. Don't work with her, you know? And so you're young and you're afraid of everything and so insecure. Because also you don't have anybody else to talk to about it. If I would be able to talk to my younger self and say all of these things, like, please be careful because these are signs, these are red flags, then I would definitely have maybe had the balls to, I would have still fallen in the same trap, but I might have been able to cut off earlier or realize it faster, or just say, okay, look, this sounds like that. I might need a little bit.
Or just be like, look, you're not working for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work with you anymore.
Yeah, but it's really hard to get rid of them too because they're very manipulative. They're very manipulative.
Well, I having never been in this situation before, but from what I've heard from not just, you know, you, but also other artists, I think it's a general life lesson to be able. It's also with like manipulative friends, you know, you have and you're like, oh, but you know, they're my friends and I kind of don't, you know, it's kind of hard to break off a friendship, you know, it's kind of the same. It's a life lesson to learn to just be like, look, this person is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like in this case, paying them to manage you, to give you some sort of opportunities to use their network, not expecting them to do the world, but you know, and that's also sad in and of itself, because managers back then would have done the world for their artist. Just watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Oh my god, that manager is so like, yeah, she does shit things, but she's like, she believes in Mrs. Maisel. And it's the same with friendships, right? It's like you kind of like, you want it to work because they're your friends, but you realize, oh, actually, that's not what a friendship is. So just to make it maybe a little bit easier for people to relate to, I don't know if that helps, but
I don't agree. I don't think it's the same as friendships, because a friendship, well, you know, yes, you have friends that might be using you for some things, or even for money or whatever. If you know, you have a little bit of money and they have less, and then they can just use you for that. But that's basically, you know, people like this in like friendship situations, well, they're then basically a narcissist or whatever, and you have to like get them out of your life because they're toxic. But I mean, these managers, or like fake managers, let's say, this is their business plan. They've thought about this. They've maybe even taken courses in how to manipulate people. And the last one that I was with literally kind of gave it away with one of those things. And I was a little bit shocked. Like, I'm like, okay, so he literally followed that course, and that's like to get people to just, they're salespeople. They don't care about you. They're not, you know, like, they don't have anything in common with you like you would like meet somebody and have like a preliminary friendship with them. Even if it gets toxic by the end, you have things in common. Otherwise you don't like be our friends.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. So this is just, they go to these conferences and they're literally looking for you. They're looking for this young artist that they can manipulate, a person with stars in their eyes who wants to make it and who wants to do everything they can to make it. And that includes paying a guy to, make it work for them. And that's fine if you find the right person who will actually do that. And the thing is, with exactly like you said, paying up front, you're never going to have a person like that. So that is very, very difficult. And I think if you're already with a label or something like that, and certainly a major label, then they have people on their payroll and it's their jobs. And they will get fired if they don't do their jobs.
Yeah.
So then it's a little bit easier to judge, like, okay, will this manager help me? Well, he's on the payroll, and if he doesn't do his job, he's going to have to find another job. But these guys who are self-employed and like building their network and building their companies, and they have always a lot to say. And also, mostly the things that they tell you that they've gone through, or like, oh, look, I've manage this and this artist. Watch out with that, like very well-known artists or something, that like names you recognize, like, oh wow, you did work with that person. And you have to be careful because it's not always the complete truth. They might have been involved in something with that artist, but they can manipulate the shit out of that situation. And they even put things online on like their website. They're like, oh, and I've worked with this and this and this and this. Yeah, but it's a little bit different of how you got into that, because if you look at their CVs, like on LinkedIn or whatever, sometimes they give themselves away because I hope they're not listening to this, because then they can hide it. But like, oh, they've worked at this certain radio station. Well, at a radio station, you invite artists to interview them maybe, or stuff like that. And then they can kind of say, oh, but I made sure that this artist had their first radio interview. No, you worked at the radio. You were inviting them for an interview. You didn't make the radio invite them for an interview. Okay, so you're not the manager. So they kind of twist these kind of stories into making you believe that it was them who did all this stuff for the artist, while sometimes it's not completely the truth. And that's really hard to vet. You can't.
God, that's so depressing. That sounds so depressing. Yeah,
it is. It really is. I mean, like a tour manager, when it's your job to make, or even you work at a venue. Imagine I'm even a bouncer at a venue, and well, I'm not the person booking all these artists, but I am the bouncer, so I'm in contact with all these artists. What if every time there's an artist, you're backstage and you have a chat with them, you just, take care of their security, this and that, and then you're on your website like, oh, I've worked with this one, I've worked with Ed Sheeran, and I worked with Madonna, I worked with, yeah, you might have met them at one point because you were employed at a place that they were too, but it's not the same as actually have managed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is an extreme example, but that's basically what it's about. So you have to really watch out with and if you could actually call Ed Sheeran and say, hey, did this guy really do that for you? Then you would know, but you can't, can you?
Yeah. So it's really insane. I think the conclusion, however depressing it may be, I think the conclusion is it's not a depressing conclusion. You don't need a manager. You don't need one.
Actually, that's
you
really
can
great.
do it yourself. Yeah. So you don't need to fall into this pit of worries. And like, you can network yourself, and you can also maybe get a booker or do your booking yourself. There are loads of courses for independent artists that are actually good as well.
Yeah.
Like, you do need to do your research, but there are some really good ones. If you don't know which ones are good, I'd suggest call us, send us an email. What I usually do is I look up whether there are organizations in the city that I'm in or in the country that I'm in that have to do with music. And so there's a couple in Hamburg actually that are not just music exclusively. There's also like the creative kind of, so they do a lot more than just music. And they sometimes do courses themselves, or they suggest courses, and that's where you can always find legit places, because they will not get people in who don't know what they're talking about. They will not suggest things that are illegitimate. And
definitely, yeah.
it's a great way to kind of find something that is proper. And a load of these things are online now. So if you want to go to local places so you can actually go and sit there and you work better, not digitally, then definitely look up something local. But yeah, there are so many great resources out there for musicians nowadays, because we've all noticed over the past couple of years that we need it. And so being creative artists that we banded together and we thought, let's just give people what they need, because this is what I would have wanted 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for today. I hope we didn't, put you in a depression too much. So yes, managers are overrated. You don't need them. Do it yourself. Other team members are more important. Actually, let's do an episode on which team members are important and in which order. Let's do that for next season. All right. So thank you for tuning into Unboxing Women. If you've ever had an experience that you want to share with us, like, any fake managers out there, please do send us a DM or tag us in your post with the hashtag suchabitch, or send us an email on suchabitch@unboxingwomen.com. Don't forget to drop us a like on Instagram or wherever you're listening to us. And my name is Dana Rex, and I've been chatting with Micah Rose. Tune in to another episode of Unboxing Women next week. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.